you'd add what the national inflation is to certain budget lines, like utilities if you're not in a fixed contract, or to like mowing contract, that type of thing. Utilities contract, we actually probably will be able to cut these lines down, because also we've had a slight issue changing over to Octopus. So the crash centre electricity meter, SSE, who was our previous contractor, was reading that meter incorrectly and was reading the day rate as the total. So the rate was actually being recorded higher than what we should be getting. So I've just argued the toss with that through Openness with SSE, because they're a nightmare to use. And we've now got, instead of usually a monthly bill of about 523 for the crash centre for both electric and gas, from June to August it's only £41. So that's been overcharged as well. I've got a formal complaint into SSE today after I had formal notification of it. So hopefully I'll get some money back from them as well. But the monthly bill, if we go off the community centre, which was being correctly recorded, instead of both gas and electric being around 650 to 860 a month, depending on like weather and that, this month it's only been 210. So obviously the SSE contract, we were in COVID rates, but the movement to Openness, thankfully, I'd quite pushed it to that, it works out quite well at the minute, and we're saving quite a lot per unit. So that will go down properly, not go up with inflation, because we're in a fixed contract for 18 months on that. Audit is likely to stay the same, I've been told. Insurance, we're going to have to move insurer probably. Clear insurance, loads of other councils have been having a lot of problems with renewals with them. They want all councillors to send in like any of their debts and everything, and obviously councillors don't want to do that. So we'll look at that, but I'll also be looking at like a 3-year contract to make it lower over the years, because as what I've seen, to what I've previously done, if you had it over 3 years, it's substantially cheaper. So that might come down a bit. Income, I'm hoping that goes up. We've already now hired out the back room of the crash centre, so that's additional income coming in. We've potentially got more income coming in for the community centre as well. So I'm hoping that we can plan it out a lot more this year.
Is there anything that might be missed of that list, I suppose, is the question?
What about emergency payments?
Emergency payments?
In
In terms of what
So
we don't anticipate rather than...
that's only earmarked reserves and general
Like go to like budget percentage, so we've got some.
So we've got earmarked reserves for that already. So for example, there's the community centre has got an earmarked reserve in case, for example, the boiler breaks down or there's a fire or whatever. So we have got those in reserves at the minute. The only thing that we will need to look at is the election earmarked reserve in regards to earmarked reserves, because the latest election bill that came out in the SMDD region was 9,000 just for a by-election of one ward. So with the shadow elections, we don't know our percentage yet, and that's my concern. So at the minute, if you have an election with another authority, we only pay a small percentage of it because we're the smaller authority, but it will be under the unitary rules for the shadow elections, and we don't know if they're going to whack our percentage up or not. So we need to be ready for that, really, because we don't know if they're going to let us have a payment plan like SNDC do currently. So we might have a massive bill, so we'll need to put that earmarked reserve up, and that's what you
27-28, that's item 8 on the agenda, is to discuss the Council's priorities for the 27-28 financial year and to provide initial guidance to each committee chair to enable detailed budget proposals to be developed by each committee. And there's a set of bullet points here that chairs of, for example, assets and services, community centre need to consider. Do you want to make any observation?
Obviously at the minute, in the background, we're looking at all the contractors, so we need to consider that because that might change the structure level, which obviously is not all further at the minute because the work's going on in the background and there's separate meetings that if there's obviously there's also talks about some improvements to the community centre to improve higher rate. The crash centre, whether the toilets are coming out this year or next year, that's a consideration because if it's going to take a while to sort and we're taking out next year, we need to budget for that. Cemeteries, is there anything that we're planning to do? Events, are we going to start looking at events? Looking at the garages survey results that have come in so far, events is something residents have been ticking.
It is something.
Yeah.
We've got to do it as well, and we might get a lot of responses from that.
Playgrounds has also been high on the survey.
But I think that set of 6 bullet points is quite a good guidance for each committee to address in their respective discussions. Yeah. Everybody agree? Yeah. Everybody have that? Show of hands, please. Okay, so item 9. Yeah. So item 9 we're actually going to delete because that's actually been progress outside of this conversation and looks like it's been done on that topic. But there was a meeting set up to discuss that separately. Item 10 then, the indicative precept planning. To discuss the financial priorities for 27-28 and provide an initial indication of the level of precept required to deliver those facilities priorities. So following this meeting, each committee is going to then be looking at its own detailed budget requirements in accordance with the agreed assumptions on budget recommendations, and then we'll get a draft budget and precept proposal for consideration and approval by full council. Do you want to say anything about the precept at this point?
Yeah. So last year obviously we did have an increase around inflation. Residents always don't want to have an increase obviously because it's more money for them. From my point of view, and from a lot of RFA's point of view, if you can keep it around inflation or lower, that's ideal, but obviously you've got to think of any bigger projects. I think because we're looking at contractors and rewriting that type of book, and we've been changing suppliers and changing the income, I think we're quite balanced at the minute, so it's whether we want to take on any projects next year or then looking at the elections. I can't see anything big coming up really that we need to really financially be aware of. But if I can have an idea of the percentage increase